Great to be here with you on this Monday. No, I am not Christian Gokel. I am Kevin Thomas. He is BJ Bennett, and we are doing the job of one man who is doing the job of three men. There at SDC Media Days, Christian Gokel is there. We will check in, BJ, with him coming up in just a little bit there from Hoover, Alabama. So Christian there this week. We'll be filling in for him during second down. Of course, more from the SEC coming up on 3 and Out, where we'll go, wall-to-wall football on it. It's kind of the SEC Media Days, the unofficial kickoff to the college football season. And I know a place we have gotten used to going, BJ. I know this year they bring it back, kind of dialed some things back in terms of the number of media they were trying to allow there. So we sent Christian and kept us back here at the studio. He's going to have a bunch of coverage for us. We'll have a lot of folks there from Hoover joining us this week, as well as, of course, everybody wants to talk college football. And BJ, I know it's just Monday, and neither one of them are there yet. I believe it was, kind of had the commissioner's State of the Union, if you will. You have South Carolina, you have LSU, and you had Florida there today. But it seems the talking points are Alabama and Georgia, and who's going to fill in from there?
Yeah, it's really interesting. And a couple of thoughts. This is the kickoff to the season. I mean, SEC Media Days, Conference Media Days get you ready. You hear from the coaches, you hear from the players, you hear from the media, and you really kind of get a sense for what the talking points are going to be for the next couple of months. But yeah, I do think it feels like a lot of people are sort of separating the conference out in tiers, right? Alabama and Georgia, tier 1, tier 2, probably A&M, LSU, tier 3, maybe Florida, maybe Auburn, and then you have a whole lot of unknowns. And what else is interesting about where we are here is not only is it Alabama and Georgia leading the way with the talking points, and Georgia will be in Hoover tomorrow, but Kevin, does it feel like to you, and we'll ask Christian, that maybe that margin between Georgia and Alabama is as close as ever, at least in terms of perception? We've heard a lot of people say, hey, Alabama's the favorite, yes, but they replace a lot. And then when you hear folks talk about Georgia, this is Kirby Smart's most highly touted team. Where are the questions, the transfers, the experience, the depth? They have it all. I think right now it feels like Alabama's the favorite. That's no surprise. But to me, from afar, it looks like Georgia may be as close as ever in the minds of a lot of media folks.
Absolutely. And again, we'll hear from Buck Belue coming up later on 3 and Out. Former Georgia quarterback is obviously the focus point is going to be there. But let's talk about who is there today, BJ. We'll hear from, again, Zachary Carter and Ventrell Miller. Ben had a chance to sit and talk with both of those guys. Jordan Rogers, Ivan Maisel will join us here on a 3 and Out. We'll hear from them. But let's talk about those teams that are there. First with Florida. This is a team that I think feels pretty good about, at worst, number 2 in the East, and probably have internally their sights on bumping off the Dogs in Jacksonville to get themselves back to an SEC championship game. Now, I know they got Emory Jones. They got a lot of new playmakers on offense that have to step up. Do you think they get there?
I think they're better than people think. Now, I know that's kind of an ambiguous statement because there are varying different opinions, but a lot of people seem to have Florida in that position where you're second, but are you really even second? Could Missouri or Kentucky top you? And I'm excited to chat with some Florida folks today and kind of see what the response to that is, because what a lot of people are forgetting is when Florida walks in the room at SEC Media Days today, they're the defending division champs. I mean, with all due respect to Georgia, and we all know Georgia's going to be good, if I'm a Florida Gator, I'm looking around going, this is my division. We won it last year. We beat Georgia in Jacksonville. The division goes through Gainesville and probably Jacksonville, but Gainesville. And I feel like there will be a confidence there from the Gators. They only return 9 starters overall, so a lot of turnover. You lose Trask and Pitts and Tony and Grimes and just playmakers everywhere. But I think Florida's defense is going to be better. And think about this, Kevin. It really is kind of surprising that there's not more of a national buzz around Florida. This is a team that has made 3 straight New Year's Six bowl games. They had Alabama within 1 score in an SEC title game where they dropped 48 on the Tide. I know they didn't finish the way they wanted to overall, but you like your quarterback, you like your defense, you like your offensive line. I mean, are we sleeping on the Gators some?
Well, again, I know why everybody would go with Georgia, right? Because they are the one with a lot of guys coming back. They have their quarterback coming back. And Florida is kind of what you saw in the West with LSU in 2019, or after 2019, Alabama last year, where, hey, you were really good and you lost a lot of dudes who moved on to the National Football League. Can you just plug and play? I mean, I know we say that with Alabama. It's like, hey, you just lost 12 guys to the National Football League. That's fine. We have 12 more NFLers who are ready to step in and take their place. Can Dan Mullen just plug and play? I mean, I would say everybody's talking about Emory Jones. I mean, if Emory Jones was the guy, he would have been playing last year, right? Like, I think he would have.
Well, I mean, keep in mind your quarterback last year was a Heisman finalist.
I understand that. I'm saying, but like, there was a reason he wasn't playing last year as much. And it was because the guy in front of him was very, very good. And has he gotten enough experience with what little time he has to step in right away from the jump and run Dan Mullen's offense the way people think it's going to go? I think that may take some time to kind of flesh out here in the early portion of the season is basically what I'm getting at. And is there a stumble on the road while they're trying to get live game reps and get comfortable with what they're able to do there at quarterback? If it goes well, I think Florida's certainly there. And as we've seen, any and everything on both sides can happen in Jacksonville. So I think anybody that chalks that up at this point is just ridiculous on either side. Although I think, again, I don't think it will be unanimous, but I think it'll be a runaway freight train that Georgia is expected to win the East, which would mean most people probably have them beating Florida in Jacksonville.
No, I think so too. I'm just saying don't forget about Florida, because this is a team that has earned the benefit of the doubt, that has been one of the most consistent programs nationally the last couple of years. Again, 3 straight New Year's Six bowl games, just had Alabama on the ropes in the SEC title game. And in terms of Emory, Jones is Dan Mullen's quarterback that he recruited. The guys previously you saw Mullen utilize, they were not recruited by Mullen. So I think Emory Jones is going to be proficient. He's going to be effective. He's a junior. So when you think about Emory Jones, it's not like you're saying, oh, here's a redshirt freshman, or here's a guy that hasn't played or doesn't, have great familiarity with the system. He's a junior who's been with Dan Mullen his entire tenure. I think he's going to be really productive. My questions with Florida are probably more offensive line, wide receiver, running back rotation. I know you have some transfers at those spots, maybe the defensive line along the interior with depth. So I don't think that's a question, the quarterback spot. And you look around the league, I mean, just about everybody has some sort of a quarterback question, even Georgia with JT Daniels. And we'll hear from those guys tomorrow, but he's played 4 or 5 games. It's not like he's a full season returning starter. So all I'm saying, yes, I picked Georgia 1 in the East, and I think most people will. But I've talked to a lot of Bulldog fans who have said, yeah, look at the big games on our schedule. We got to see if we can figure out a way to handle Auburn. They're always tricky. And then if we lose the opener, what does that mean? If we win it, can we absorb a loss? And then it's like, oh, yeah, there's Florida and Jacksonville. And I would just be careful with that, because when you start writing teams off, that can sometimes be an added boost for them. And the Gators won this division last year. I think Georgia's clearly the favorite, but I don't think we've seen some preseason polls that have Florida like 20 to 25 or outside of the top 25, maybe in that 18 to 22 range. I think they're better than that. That's all I'm saying.
Also there today, you've got South Carolina, and obviously Shane Beamer's job is spread the message, man. Spread the positivity message that South Carolina's trying to come back. I mean, obviously they've got a lot of work, BJ, to get back to relevancy, but the Gamecocks having their turn there today in Hoover. How long is the road to relevancy there in the East for them?
I don't know that it's that long. And when you say relevancy, I want to be clear with to me, that doesn't mean you're back to the Steve Spurrier glory days where you're winning 11 games every year. But last season was a disappointment down the stretch. I think this team's probably a little better than people think too, with Kevin Harris, the star at running back who led the SEC in rushing a year ago with 113 or 14 yards per game. This defensive line is one of the best in the league. Remember, you add Jordan Strawn, former Camden County Wildcat, to your front line. He led the nation in sacks last year with Georgia State. So I think South Carolina's better at the line of scrimmage than people realize. When we had Shane Beamer on, a couple of weeks ago, Kevin, he said, I really like our play in the trenches. That's going to help you win games. Now, the question there, I think, at quarterback is Luke Doty the guy? I think they're going to give him every chance to be. But would it stun me if South Carolina's better than people think this year? No. Could they make a bowl game? Do I think 6-6 is unreasonable? No. Are they going to beat Florida or Georgia? Probably not. But that's the multi-year vision that Shane Beamer has. But this team has some standouts, no doubt.
And finally, you have LSU in there. We also hear from the commissioner for his kind of state of the SEC today as well. But LSU, BJ, they're to me very interesting because 2019 maybe the most complete season we've ever seen in college football in terms of eye-popping numbers, guys on the team. That's saying something. And they went from that, obviously, into 2020, COVID pandemic, guys opting out, but they went from one of the best we've ever seen to a team that scraped and scrapped to get to 500 and 5-5. Now, I know people can write that off and say, look, guys opted out. We lost a bunch of talent. It just wasn't your normal season. I get that. So that being said, to me, what is 2021 LSU look like? And is this a team that kind of fell off due to COVID and some other things that now in 2021 might be walking into Alabama today saying, look, we won the national championship 2 years ago, had a bunch of opt-outs. Otherwise, we could have been contending for a playoff spot potentially in our minds last year. Where do you think the storylines sit there with LSU?
I think it has to start defensively. And I know it's easy to talk about the quarterbacks, right? Brennan and Johnson and who's going to be the guy. But defensively, and keep in mind, LSU has Derek Stingley at corner and Eli Ricks, two of the best corners in the country. LSU was last in the nation in pass defense. Last, 127th. And I think some of that, you played Mississippi State, obviously, when they were throwing it. You played Alabama, obviously, with Mac Jones. You played Florida with Kyle Trask, but you bring in Durante Jones as the defensive coordinator from the NFL, and I think he's really going to improve that unit, balance that unit out. I think you're going to see them be more playmaking, more aggressive. I think LSU's defense is going to lead that turnaround. Offensively, you have two good quarterbacks. You're going to throw it. Your offensive line's solid. My question, Kevin, is how much better can you be defensively? I think if they can be pretty good, and that's the expectation, they're going to matter out west.
And again, we will hear from some LSU folks coming up a little bit later when we get to 3 and Out right around the corner. We are filling in for Christian Gokel here on Second Down. He is at SEC Media Days there in Hoover. We'll look to touch base with him. We'll also hear from a couple of Florida Gators who are on hand there, Zachary Carter and Ventrell Miller, a couple of defensive guys. Florida, one of the few teams not bringing a quarterback this go around there to SEC Media Days. We'll also hear from Jordan Rogers, former Vandy quarterback, now with the SEC Network, and Ivan Maisel, just college football writer extraordinaire. We will hear from them coming up here in this hour of Second Down. This is Second Down, all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. It is a second down on this Monday. Glad you are with us. We're filling in. Kevin Thomas, BJ Bennett, filling in for Christian Gokel. SEC Media Days in Hoover, Alabama this week, where the college football world ascends and gets fired up about the upcoming season. Yeah, Florida, LSU, South Carolina there today. Georgia expected to join the party tomorrow. And joining us as a guest on Second Down with Christian Gokel is Christian Gokel, guest on your own. So, Christian, first off, I saw you tweeting about it. So how is the grub there at SEC Media Days? That's what the trip's all about.
Oh, yeah. I mean, obviously started off with some grits because, I mean, you got to start with the grits. Get a nice layer on the bottom of the stomach, added some bacon, some eggs, and then a little bit of ham on top of that, about 4 cups of coffee now. So we're rocking and rolling.
Well, again, it's SEC opening day here. You got Florida, LSU, South Carolina, of course, Greg Sankey giving his comments. What's kind of the tenor of SEC Media Days? I know they kind of dialed it back. Less players from each team, a little less media allowed this time around. What's kind of the tenor of Media Days thus far?
I think the biggest statement so far has come from Greg Sankey, where he said, listen, if you don't have your teammates vaccinated and you guys have COVID rampant throughout your program and you have to miss that game, that's a forfeiture. That's going to be a loss on the schedule. There's not going to be any making anything up this year. It's a forfeiture. That's a loss, or a mark in the loss column. I think that's been the biggest statement so far is there's not going to be any kind of, listen, we'll try to reschedule this, move this around. Straight up, if you guys don't have enough players to play, it's a loss.
How has Greg Sankey addressed the name, image, likeness stuff, which is obviously a huge deal, Christian, and you're seeing it in action at SEC Media Days this week?
Yeah, I mean, he's said more along the lines of he's wanted to see more from people who are in charge of the decision-making, whether that be the NCAA or Congress, but he's also happy that it's something that has happened, right? He's happy that the players have this ability now, but now what he's looking forward to is more clarity. And I think that's something we're all looking for, right? That's the reason we want that federal law, is because right now, anywhere you go in the country, it's different rules, right? And so what we're looking for is one overarching law, and who knows when that's going to happen.
Yeah, and again, that's what makes this so interesting right out of the gate. LSU, Florida, South Carolina there today. I think Florida had the morning rotation with the commissioner. What's the word with the Gators? And I know a lot of people think, hey, Dan Mullen's the QB genius. Is that what everybody's expecting to happen with Emory Jones?
Well, Dan Mullen really was harping on his defense and saying how many guys he has coming back and how much last year it wasn't so much that they were bad game in and game out. It was just situationally they made some mistakes that they want to try to improve upon. But some of the guys that came back, like Zachary Carter is here today, he came back and he spoke about the fact that he sat on the field for 5 minutes after the SEC championship game had ended and just kind of looked at the confetti and realized how good this program is. And so he's like, hey, I want that confetti, instead of it being for Alabama, I want it to be for Florida. And then on the offensive side of the ball, Dan Mullen said, honestly, Emory Jones is the guy, but there's an open competition right now at that quarterback position. But Kevin, you know, it's SEC Media Days. Coaches are going to say there's competition at every spot, but we know it's Emory Jones, right? He didn't go so far as to say the offense will change from what we saw in 2020 to 2021, but he did say he's going to play to Emory Jones' strength, which obviously the legs, but also a huge arm, maybe a bigger arm than Kyle Trask had.
I know you've been talking with some other media folks. Is there a sense with LSU who has the early advantage, I guess, ahead of fall camp to be the starting quarterback?
Everybody I've talked to so far says Max Johnson, and I haven't heard a Miles Brennan yet. And so I think just based off of the momentum that they finished with last year, the huge win against Florida, it's looking like it's going to be Max Johnson.
LSU, we've talked about this in the open and talked, off air before, Christian, about it, where, LSU came off one of the most amazing seasons in 2019. Last year they were 5-5 with some of their key guys electing not to play, which, obviously is understandable. Now that some of those guys are back, do we expect a pretty significant rebound from a 5-5 look LSU from a season ago?
I would say so. To me, I still got to put in my voting, but to me, they're my number 2 contender in the SEC West. And I start with Eli Ricks, and then a guy who's going to be here today, Derek Stingley Jr., who might be the best football player in the country, period. And so I'm excited to hear what he has to say. But if you have that starting quarterback solidified there in Max Johnson, you have Butte coming back as a wide receiver and a ton of other talent. Some guys coming back on the offensive line as well, even though you do lose a good starter there to Kentucky. I think LSU is in for a huge rebound, maybe the most significant, I guess, plus minus in the win-loss column of any team in the SEC this year.
You know, I'm a little higher on a lot of people when it comes to South Carolina. Is there any buzz at all around South Carolina, or do most people think with Shane Beamer it's going to be a multi-year rebuild?
Yeah, for the most part, it's the thought is if they can pull out 2-3 wins in the SEC this year, that's going to be a positive year for Shane Beamer. And listen, you lost a ton, and really not at the end of the season. You lost it mid-season, right? You lost your two best corners mid-season last year, and so we kind of saw a shell of a South Carolina team down the stretch. I mean, the team that got absolutely eviscerated on the ground by Georgia, they were missing a bunch of NFL guys from that team. But now Shane Beamer's coming in, going to see a little bit different style on offense. But, BJ, I'm with you. You have Kevin Harris there on the offensive side of the ball. Turn around and hand it to him seems like the best option for South Carolina, specifically because they don't have a great quarterback right now, one of those game-changing quarterbacks. So I think what we're going to see from Shane Beamer, improvement 2-3 years down the line, once he can go out and recruit a guy at quarterback and he can start pulling in his own guys. But this year, I'm not expecting too much out of South Carolina.
Christian Gokel joining us here on Second Down with Christian Gokel.
Yeah, I don't like that.
You don't like that?
It feels weird, man.
Well, I mean,
I feel like
sometimes
you're
you
sleeping
got
in my bed.
Sometimes you got to be a guest on your own show every once in a while, just to humble yourself. Hey, I'm here on my own show, but look, I think the SEC obviously is set for a big bounce back this year, top to bottom, with some new coaches. I think now getting full off seasons. I think what's happening at Ole Miss is very exciting. Obviously, Mississippi State happening there. We know the 12-team playoff is coming. I'm sure there's not as much talk about that yet as there will be when we get closer. But how many contenders do you think folks think the SEC has for those 4 spots right now in 2021?
That they would feel comfortable saying 3.
Yeah, like how many teams are going into this thing saying we feel like we have a chance to be one of those 4 teams?
From a coach's perspective, they're all going to come in and say that, but realistically, there's probably 6 of them that think they actually have a shot. Georgia, Florida, LSU, Texas A&M, Alabama, and maybe on an outside shot, Auburn, right? But realistically, I think there's 3 teams: Georgia, Alabama, and Texas A&M. Maybe, and I'd want to see the first couple weeks before I did anything, maybe a Florida, because I, more so than I think a lot of people, really like what Florida has coming back on defense. Now, the guy who's pulling the strings and calling the plays on that defense, Third and Grantham, that's yet to be seen how that's going to work out. But when you start with Ventrell Miller and Zachary Carter and Kyer Elam in the secondary there, that's a really good base to build a defense around. So I think I'm a little bit higher on Florida's chances than a lot of people. Obviously, as we know, down where we are, it all comes down to Jacksonville. But I'd say 3, maybe 4 teams with a legitimate shot.
I know you're in the pressers. I wanted to ask you kind of a philosophical question.
Love it.
When you're a coach, do you think it makes more sense to come out and say, and coach speak is coach speak? Hey, we're looking at game 1. We're looking at, ourselves. We want to address the issues we can control. Or if you're Kirby Smart, for example, or Jimbo Fisher, do you outwardly embrace the expectations and say, yes, people are talking about us as a title contender. We feel like anything less than that is a disappointment. Do you kind of go game by game, or do you address big picture storylines if you're a contender?
I mean, are you asking me if I was the head coach?
Yeah, I know what we like as reporters. We enjoy the confidence a little more. But what would you do if you were a head coach? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm a guy like a Nick Saban, Jimbo Fisher, Kirby Smart, like, what do you want them to say, right? Like, South Carolina, they're going to give us a run for our money. No, I mean, you are expected to be in the national championship. I'm saying that's our goal every single year, is to be in a national championship. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that. Can you also say, listen, it's a really tough conference? Yeah, it's the toughest conference in college football, but you're the University of Georgia, you're the University of Alabama, Florida, right? You are supposed to be in these conversations. So I don't think there's anything wrong with the coach embracing those expectations and saying, yeah, at the end of the year, I mean, Dan Mullen said it. He said, we've been in a bunch of New Year's Six Bowls. It's time to take that next step and be in the New Year's Six Bowls, the 2 that everyone are watching, right? So I don't think there's anything wrong with embracing expectations like that. Now, on the flip side of that, if you're coming into a school and, your recruiting rankings have been in like the mid-70s for the past few years and everybody transferred out like Tennessee, you had a flood of transfers out of your school, maybe you got to temper expectations. Maybe you're saying, hey, we're going to try to play an exciting brand, right? We're going to play hard nose, right? Just some stuff to get some butts in the seats but temper expectations at the same time. Because when you start using adjectives like we're going to play hard nosed and exciting, people kind of know what that means.
It means get your tickets now so we can start looking ahead to next year.
Yeah, we need a new indoor practice facility, so you got to buy those season tickets.
That's right. That's right. We need to make sure people there. Christian Gokel joining us from Hoover at SEC Media. Are you just looking at my historical? You look like you're getting ready to ride the elevator upstairs. So that's where I'm guessing you are.
I feel bad because they have the security guards standing down at the bottom, and they've said good morning to me 19 times because I've been up and down the elevator so many times, down on Radio Row, hanging out with a bunch of our good friends, and it's cool, man. It's so good to be back because there's so many people that we communicate with almost on a weekly basis that we use for our show. It's so good to get to see everybody in person. You can kind of feel it. That year and a half off basically has kind of rekindle that fire a little bit. Everybody's just so excited to see everybody again.
Does it feel like football season is here, given that Media Days is back?
Yeah, that's why I said on Twitter, Happy New Year, because, this is it. It's time to go. Once Greg Sankey walks up there and makes those opening remarks, it's officially SEC football season.
I'm saying normally there's fans sitting down there. If I'm judging where you're at, you're right there near the lobby, but
you're
letting folks in and to kind of hang out.
Yeah, so if you'll look right here, this is typically where you see all of the people who are coming in for autographs. That's not the case this year. They're not letting them in for the autographs, but it's just media members being very careful with the COVID guidelines here so far. The request was if you're not vaccinated, you have to wear a mask. If you are vaccinated, you can. It's a personal preference there, but still, you don't have the swarms of people following the coaches anymore. That's really what I'm waiting to see is with Nick Saban, right? Because my favorite thing at SEC Media Days is just the swarm of 100 people that follow Nick Saban around. I don't know if that's going to be able to happen this year, but I also don't know if anybody will be able to stop it. It's Nick Saban in Hoover, Alabama. I don't know. I'm excited to see the swarm.
Yeah, the floating mass of humanity that follows.
Nick listen, Shane Beamer is the head coach at the University of South Carolina. He walked in the front doors here, and two people were oh, there's Shane Beamer.
Hey, I guarantee you he wins some ball games. It won't stay that way for long with folks in the SEC, man. They'll know who he is real quick if he starts pulling off some upsets. Christian, appreciate it, man. We'll check in with you coming up a little bit later on 3 and Out, but back at it. And hey, the coffee's free. Keep going,
bro. I'm gonna hit that buffet. I think lunch is up now.
Okay, well, maybe you'll be joining us in third, 3 and Out from
third down. Heard.
Third down, 3 and Out, lying on the floor, trying to let the food digest, man. Hey, we appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon, man.
All right, brother.
All right, Christian Gokel joining us here on Second Down with Christian Gokel. He's not a fan of being a guest on his own show, but hey, he's doing the yeoman's work for us this week there at SEC Media Days.
Okay, basically everybody just got the real scoop. All the talk about talking to the coaches, interviewing players. Nope. You go for the buffet. You go for the lunch. You go for the dinner. You go to hang out. Come on, man. Everybody's there to eat. You know how it is.
100% there for the cuisine. Football kind of takes a bet. I'm just kidding, but no, a lot of fun going on there. We'll have more to come. We'll hear from a couple of Florida Gators who are on hand there in Hoover. Our own Ben Troop had a chance to sit down with those guys. We'll hear from them next here on Second Down with Christian Gokel. Welcome back. Second down. Kevin Thomas, BJ Bennett filling in for Christian Gokel, who's in Hoover, Alabama at SEC Media Days. Today you have Florida, LSU, and South Carolina taking the rotation. Our own Ben Troop had a chance to speak with some guys representing Florida today, Zachary Carter and Ventrell Miller. He started off talking with Zachary Carter, defensive end there at Florida, about the 2021 season.
SEC Media Days 2021, and my next guest really needs no introduction. But if you ain't seen him on social media, man, the man looks like, he dressed to impress, dressed to the nines. The great Zachary Carter of the Florida Gators. What's going on with you today, Zachary?
How you doing, man?
So, Zach, before we even get into the season, I saw you, I saw Ventrell, I saw Coach Dan Muller on the private jet, man. How does it feel being up in them friendly skies, man, on that private jet?
Man, that's unreal, man. I'm blessed to be here. Real.
Now, Zach, you guys obviously went out there last year, won the SEC East, looking to defend that SEC East crown. You decided to come back for your senior season. What made you decide to come back? I saw They Don't Know the Monster They Created, Part 2, hashtag Carter era, man. Why do you decide to come back this year?
I got 2 words: unfinished business.
A man, a few words, but obviously last year the defense, man, you guys didn't play as well as you have in the past. What are you looking to do this year as a defense, and what have you been working on this offseason individually?
Oh man, well, after last season, the guys, we had a great spring on the defensive side of the ball, and the guys are starting to come together more, and had a lot of energy and excitement, and we definitely been working harder than ever as a defense. We have big expectations this year, but individually, I just been fine-tuning my game, continuing to work on my craft, add a little size, get stronger, faster. So it's been a pretty good offseason so far.
And what should those opposing offensive lines, expect from you this season? You're a guy that's made tremendous strides from your freshman year till now. You talk about being able to add some size, add some speed, add some power. But what should those interior offensive linemen be looking forward to this year from the Zach Attack?
Man, I'm bringing speed and power, so keep them off balance. They don't really know what to expect.
Talking with Zachary Carter, interior defensive lineman for the Florida Gators at SEC Media Days 2021 in Hoover, Alabama. And Zach, look, man, you a guy that's going to be looked upon to do not just provide some leadership for the defense, but provide leadership for the whole team. How has this senior year been different? Because I can remember when you first got to Florida, did it seem like the time went by really fast?
Man, time went by really fast, man. I was just thinking about it earlier. I felt like I just got here, as a young guy, and now, I'm an older guy who guys look up to, and I got a leadership role, and I gotta play my role, and I can't let my guys down, So it's pretty cool.
And Zach, last year against Georgia was an incredible game. You guys spot Georgia 14 points, end up getting a big win. You guys are replacing a lot of guys on the offensive side of the ball. No Kadarius Toney, no Kyle Trask, no Kyle Pitts. You guys are looking to replace some big-time talent. What are you guys looking to make sure that 2021 is not a letdown from 2020?
The biggest thing is, we had those guys, but, we had guys behind them, waiting to fill those roles, and guys working just as hard. So I'm excited to see what some of these younger guys do, and guys that really didn't have a chance to play last year. And, I'm saying the Gators, we're excited for this year, and we plan to play hard every week, give it all we got.
And Zachary, before I let you out of here, I saw you and Ventrell and Coach Mullen on the private jet. You dressed to the nines, got the nice glasses on with the nice little, orange and blue on with the handkerchief. What went it to the outfit today, man? You looking like you right, you finna go run for office or not and get ready to do interviews at SEC Media Days.
Oh man, I wanted to make sure, I'm gonna be in front of the camera. I want to make sure I look professional. So that's what went into it.
Zachary Carter, interior defensive lineman for the Florida Gators, getting ready to go out there and show why the Florida Gators going to be one to reckon with in this 2021 season. Zach, I really, really appreciate you taking the time, big time, and I will be watching, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
That was Zachary Carter chatting with our own Ben Troop, Florida Gators defensive end. BJ, you said he had, 9 sacks a season ago? So obviously some big 9.5 sacks the last 2 years, So some big effort there from the Florida defensive front. Ben also sat down with linebacker Ventrell Miller, who was there at SEC Media Days as well.
2021 SEC Media Days, Hoover, Alabama. Them Florida Gators were on deck, and my next guest needs no introduction. Had a chance to chop it up with his team, and now I got the great Ventrell Miller. What's going on with you today, Ventrell?
What's going on, everybody? I'm doing pretty good out here, man. Excited to be here. It's a blessing.
Now, Ventrell, when everybody was looking to see who was coming back and not going to the pros, you was a guy that was definitely, on that watch list for Gator Nation. What made you decide to come back this year, and how are you looking to lead that defense in 2021?
Definitely, man. I came back for some unfinished business, man. Trying to go out there and win the SEC. It's just some things that I want to do personally, get my degree and stuff like that. So some of the things that went into it.
Now, Ventrell, going into this season, all the talk is about Georgia winning the East, Georgia being staggered. Last time I checked, you was the guys that beat Georgia last year after spotting 14 points. Y'all the defending East champs. I mean, why are you guys being overlooked going into the 2021 season?
Man, it's all good, man. I've been the underdog for a long time, man. So it just filled the boat a little bit more.
And Ventrell, I mean, going to SEC Media Days, representing your team is very, very prestigious. When they told you that you and Zachary was going to Hoover, Alabama, what did that make you feel?
Man, like I said, it was just a blessing, just an opportunity that I get to come out and represent my team and be a spokesperson for my team. It's just a blessing.
And Ventrell, back in 2019, I mean, you showed the world, you put the world on, the college football world on notice. 6 tackles, 2 sacks against Miami to let people know, man, I can play against anybody. I want that smoke. What is it about your game that just translates so well on the field?
Man, I feel like I see ball, get ball. So wherever the ball at, I'm there trying to find it, trying to make a play, man. Just high energy, I feel like, and just trying to get to the ball, make a play.
Talking with Ventrell Miller, linebacker for the Florida Gators, getting ready for this 2021 SEC Media Days and getting ready for this 2021 season. Ventrell, when I see you play, you talking about you say see ball, hit ball. You seem to be a guy that just plays very, very smooth. No stiffness in your hips. I mean, you a guy that can cover. You a guy that can run. Ty Grantham's defense, why does it fit your style of play so well?
Just because I can roam. I'm roaming free, whatever. You feel me? I'm roaming free. I get the blitz a little bit. We doing all those different kind of things that just set me up and put me in a good position to make plays. So.
And Ventrell, when you look at this defense, I mean, you guys are stacked. I talked about Zachary Carter, got a chance to talk to him a little bit earlier. I mean, Kyer Elam, you're talking about those guys on the back end, you and Houston. You guys got the makings of not just a good defense, but a great defense. Like, how have you guys gelled, especially with you guys having one more year left? I know when you first get to college, it seems like you're just trying to learn the terminology, but now what you are seeing and you not just leading the defense, but leading the team, man, what are you looking forward to the most? Not just winning games and losing games, but how has the team come together this year?
Definitely, team been coming together real good. Like I said, we got a chance to have a spring, and I just feel like the team chemistry is all just coming along. Like with that spring, now we're going into summer conditioning. So like since last year, it wasn't all that. We had COVID, the restrictions and all that. So just to see the atmosphere of the team right now, I like it, and it's gonna get real. That's all I'm gonna say.
And Ventrell, before I let you out of here, now look, Dan the Man Mullen is up there with you guys, and I know I'll be seeing him with the Darth Vader outfits on and trying to dance, after wins, man. Ventrell, I'm gonna put it on you, man. I mean, how far has the dance moves come from Dan the Man?
Man, they coming along. We try to get them right a little bit. They coming along though.
And I mean, I know he coached at Florida. I know you from Florida. You got to give him some of that Florida swag. I know how y'all Florida boys do. I know he can't do, the peanut butter jelly and nothing like that, man. But y'all gonna have to tell him, listen, put some WD-40 on them hips, man. He got to look good if he gonna be dancing in the locker room.
Hey, we got it all squared away for you this year, man. You should see him with them good moves coming out this year.
Well, Ventrell Miller, I appreciate you taking the time today, sir. I know you up there at the SEC Media Days, looking dressed to the nines. You and Zachary handle your business in Hoover, man, and nothing but the best and respect for you this season.
Yeah, definitely. Appreciate it, man.
That was Ventrell Miller talking with our own Ben Troop there from SEC Media Days in Hoover, Alabama. We'll come back with more Second Down with Christian Gokel on this Monday afternoon. It is second down here on this Monday. Kevin Thomas, BJ Bennett filling in for Christian Gokel. We'll have 3 and Out coming up right around the top of the hour, and plenty to get to with Florida, LSU, and South Carolina in the house there in Hoover today as day one of the SEC Media Days taking place. And BJ, so much to get to next hour. Jordan Rogers we'll hear from as we get into 3 and Out, but certainly the SEC, as Christian said, even as scaled back as it is, still a lot of hype leading into the season about what's to come in the Southeastern Conference.
Well, and I think you're going to see at least 3 teams in the top 10 of the AP coaches polls. You know, when they come out, I think you're going to see Alabama probably be preseason number 1, even with the losses. I think at this point, Kevin, I expect Georgia to be 3, 4 at worst. I mean, probably 3. I think Texas A&M will be in the 6 to 10 range. Could be as high as 5, but I think A&M will be 6, 7, somewhere in there. And then LSU potentially in the 10 to 15 range. Maybe Florida right there at a couple of spots lower. So even in a year where you don't necessarily have superstar quarterbacks returning, at 7, 8, 9 schools, even in a year where maybe you have some programs that have a little more modest expectations, like a South Carolina or a Tennessee potentially, there's still incredible star power, the biggest names in coaching, the best players in the game. The SEC is still as big as it gets.
Absolutely. And again, we'll hear in the afternoon session, it's going to be South Carolina and LSU. So still to come, some comments from those coaches. Greg Sankey, his State of the Union, so to speak, today saying, hey, if you have to say we can't go because you have too many COVID positives or what have you, that's a forfeit. We're not going to reschedule, not going to make it up. I think that kind of comes on the heels of what the Big 12 announced last week with their policy is that, look, there's too much going on to reschedule 6 games every weekend. If that's what needs to happen, try to figure it out and who can play, who can't. If you can't go, that's a forfeit. End of story. We move forward. So we'll see what happens there in the SEC. But that was a kind of the big talking point there from Greg Sankey. But certainly the SEC leads the way in a lot of things. We'll hear more, I'm sure, in the coming years about the playoffs and expanding playoffs. I'm sure Greg Sankey would say, look, we know with 12 teams, that probably means just more money in our pocket at the end of the day, because we're going to get more teams involved.
Yeah, quickly, do you expect the Georgia Bulldogs, who are coming tomorrow, to outwardly embrace the national title expectations?
If you go by what Kirby Smart said in the past, I would say, yeah, hey, you think we can win it? Pressure's a privilege, right? You don't say things like pressure's a privilege if you don't carry yourself with the weird national championship good. And again, what's the difference in Georgia and Alabama? I mean, literally, BJ, what's the difference in Georgia and Alabama right now in their programs?
I guess recent results and Nick Saban.
Saying a couple of plays, like straight up a couple of plays. That's the whole difference in the two programs right now. One team has made them, and the other team has not. But you're not that far off, and I feel like Georgia fans feel they're knocking on the door. And yeah, I think the first part is knowing you're good enough internally to get there. The second part is everybody else telling you how good you are and embracing that. I mean, Alabama doesn't run for that. Yeah. Everybody thinks we should win the national championship. So do we. Good for us, right? So I would expect Kirby Smart would embrace some of that talk as well, especially when he's got the type of squad that he has. We've got 3 and Out coming up around the corner. We're filling in for Christian Gokel here while he's at SEC Media Days. This has been Second Down, 3 and Out, right around the corners. We keep you up to date with everything SEC related here on this Monday.